In early May, off the eastern coast of India, the airspace over the Bay of Bengal was quietly restricted. Shortly after, mobile footage from the coastline captured an unusual exhaust trail carving its way through the cloud cover and into the upper atmosphere. The visual signature initially suggests a heavy launch vehicle, a high-intensity burn pushing a massive object in a steep vertical climb to clear the densest layers of the atmosphere. But then the flight path deviates. The object abruptly arrests its ascent. It pitches down 90 degrees, trades its vertical climb for horizontal momentum, and begins flying parallel to the Earth's surface. A standard intercontinental ballistic missile relies on a predictable parabolic arc, shooting into space and falling back towards its target. This object completely abandoned that mathematical curve. Maintaining this specific horizontal path requires an advanced aerodynamic vehicle capable of generating lift at extreme altitudes. The signature suggests an object designed to operate outside the traditional physics of ballistic flight. The physical evidence of the flight path suggests capabilities that far exceed India's established missile inventory. But the administrative trail tells a different story. This was the official notice to airmen issued by the Indian government in the days leading up to the launch. It defined a modest 3,500-kilometer hazard zone, a footprint typical of a mid-range regional test. Adding to the confusion, a state media channel briefly broadcast news of a successful anti-ship hypersonic missile test. Within minutes, the post was deleted. We are left with a contradiction, a visual signature that requires an intercontinental-class booster paired with official records claiming a regional, tactical weapon. This discrepancy suggests that the conflicting data is not a bureaucratic error, but a deliberate component of the test itself. By analyzing the physics of this trajectory, we can model the propulsion requirements and payload capacity it implies, revealing how a single, unannounced test might alter the strategic depth of the entire region. To understand what flew over the Bay of Bengal, we must look at the compromise that has governed long-range strikes for decades, the trade-off between geographic range and detection. This is the profile of a traditional ICBM. It follows a predictable path through the vacuum of space. That high-altitude apex makes the missile visible to long-range early warning radar from thousands of miles away, providing adversaries ample time to prepare. This visibility allows modern defense networks, like the S-400 seen here, to calculate a precise intercept point while the warhead is in mid-course bays. The alternative to flying high is flying low, using the architecture of a cruise missile. By flying parallel to the Earth's surface, a cruise missile stays below the radar horizon, avoiding detection. However, flying in dense atmosphere creates massive drag. Overcoming that resistance consumes fuel so quickly, intercontinental distances become impossible to achieve. For a nation seeking global deterrence, neither legacy system is sufficient. One is too easy to see, the other is too limited in reach. The Agni 6 is believed to solve this through a hypersonic glide vehicle. It launches on a heavy booster, just like a ballistic missile, climbing until it possesses immense potential energy at the very edge of the atmosphere. Instead of continuing into space, the vehicle detaches and aggressively pitches down, leveling out in the upper stratosphere. Here, the air minimizes drag, but provides aerodynamic lift. It stays in the gap, too low for space-tracking radar, but too high for traditional surface-to-air defenses. At 24 times the speed of sound, the vehicle covers miles in fractions of a second. This compresses the window between initial detection and impact to a point where traditional decision-making cycles and interceptor launches become statistically improbable. Because it uses aerodynamic surfaces to steer, its path isn't locked into a fixed curve. It can shift its heading mid-flight, making it impossible for a defense system to predict where it will be in the next 60 seconds. The quasi-ballistic glide resolves the range stealth paradox, allowing a payload to reach a distant continent while staying outside most effective detection zones of modern radar. Once a delivery vehicle can reliably reach its target, the focus shifts to the payload itself. This involves MIRV technology, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. The main vehicle acts as a carrier, releasing several warheads, each capable of striking distinct targets. This means a single launch is no longer a single threat. It can distribute its payload across an entire region, hitting geographically separated military hubs at once. For a defense network, this is a saturation event. Tracking and intercepting one hypersonic target is difficult. Attempting to intercept dozens of independent warheads moving at Mach 24 creates a problem of sheer mathematical volume. Developing a glide vehicle that can also deploy multiple warheads requires a level of engineering found in only a handful of nations. By testing these capabilities, India is moving into a tier occupied by the DF-41 and other advanced systems. It is a transition from regional defense to a posture that matches the strategic reach of global peers. This payload architecture transitions a nation's reach beyond its immediate neighbors, providing the ability to hold targets at risk on a global scale. Engineering the hardware is the first hurdle. Masking that achievement to avoid international diplomatic friction is the second. And Notice to Airmen, or NOTAM, is a standard tool for transparency. It ensures commercial flight safety and signals military intentions to neighbors. The NOTAM for this test only declared a 3,500-kilometer hazard zone. To an outside observer, this looks like a routine test of a much older Agni-4 missile. The declared zone serves as a distraction. While the paperwork suggested a 3,500-kilometer regional test, the physics of the HGV flight path suggest a true footprint that covers nearly 3 times that distance. This, combined with the accidental release of information about a short-range anti-ship missile, creates a flood of conflicting data. This is strategic ambiguity. By providing contradictory information, intelligence agencies force rivals to prepare for multiple different weapons simultaneously, diluting their defensive focus. Furthermore, without an official declaration of a 10,000-kilometer range, there is no formal evidence for international bodies to use in leveling diplomatic sanctions. The conflicting reports and the understated hazard zones were likely not mistakes. They were a carefully managed attempt to hide a significant shift in regional power. The immediate result of this ambiguity is a total recalibration of risk for India's regional rivals. India has already proven its willingness to use precision strikes in cross-border operations, such as Operation Sindoor. If those strikes can now be delivered by a radar-evading hypersonic bus, the calculus for an adversary changes overnight. Intelligence planners in China and Pakistan must now assume that any future launch, no matter how it's labeled, could be a MIRV-capable glide vehicle. This uncertainty forces rivals to commit billions of dollars to defensive upgrades, pulling resources away from offensive capabilities just to maintain their existing security posture. This is the essence of structural deterrence. It is a way of winning an arms race economically and psychologically before a conflict even begins. By leaving the Agni-6 unconfirmed, the platform becomes a strategic wildcard, more effective as a mystery than it would be as a fully declared weapon. The anomalous signature seen over the Bay of Bengal represents the intersection of 2 distinct achievements. First, the engineering achievement, a vehicle designed to combine intercontinental range with a glide path that avoids the most sensitive detection zones of modern radar arrays. Second, the diplomatic achievement, securing a strategic advantage without triggering the global crises or sanctions that usually follow such a milestone. In high-stakes competition, military hardware is only the foundation. A superpower's true strength lies in the weaponized silence surrounding its potent capabilities.